Welcome in, everybody, to the Wednesday edition of Darkness Radio. I'm Tim Dennis. Along with me on the Supernatural News and Parashare Wednesday is Beer City Bruiser. Hey, Bruiser.
Hey, Tim. How you doing this morning?
Afternoon
or whatever time it is.
Whatever time it is when you're listening to this. I'm doing pretty well. I'm actually seeing a little better today as opposed to yesterday. I have the pirate patch off the eye, and
Let's say you don't look like a pirate right now.
I don't.
Minus
no.
the parrot on your shoulder.
Well, I kind of keep him around for somebody to talk to. Yeah, it's a lonely existence. I do still see that little half. It's not as prominent, but it looks like I have a little sliced black olive in my vision. It looks like a level. Did I tell you about the level bubble in my vision?
Yeah, you did, and you demonstrated by tilting your head back and forth and telling me where it went.
I can still do that. It's right down. I know nobody can see this because it's podcasting. It's audio. But it's sitting right in here, right in the lower part of my eye. What was really confusing this morning when I woke up is from the tape on the patch. Yeah. It created huge glue smears on my glasses, and I didn't realize it. So when I took my patch off this morning, I threw my glasses on, and I just saw like smearing in my vision. I went, oh, no, nothing happened. No healing, no nothing. Now, keep in mind, the medication they shoot into your eye is really powerful. So I thought, oh, God, it didn't do anything. And then I looked at my glasses, and I took my glasses off, and I was seeing really good. And I went, for blurry vision. Yeah. And I went, wait a minute. And then I looked at my glasses and I just saw these glue smears on the inside of my glasses. I went, oh, of course. So I got some Windex and let it sit in there. And the Windex didn't even take it out. So I had to go find some rubbing alcohol to take that.
Yeah, it's not like you can just scratch it off. You scratch your glasses up.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, but I'm functioning better. So
that's good to hear.
Yeah,
very good.
I got a little bit more vision back in my eye, and
I was a big fan of the pirate look, though. I have to admit, like
Pirate Timmy,
it made you tough. I mean, you are tough, but it made you like that's not a guy I want to mess with.
I tried to make a joke to the nurses. I know you'll get this joke, but the nurses didn't get the joke because, believe it or not, they were too young, and intern Yoko didn't get it because she doesn't listen to him. But I said, all right. Now I said, go get a gurney and let's recreate the Ghetto Boys album, and I can be Bushwick Bill. Right?
Oh yeah. I had rolling all that.
Yeah. I had I have the Bushwick Bill look.
You did,
right?
It didn't cross my mind though right now. But you're absolutely right. And I love the reference.
Right? And I started laughing hysterically, and I'm the only one laughing in a room with 4 women. They're all looking at me like, I said, the Ghetto Boys picture cover, with Bushwick Bill on the gurney and the eye patch, and they all looked at me like. And then the one nurse goes, who's the Ghetto Boys?
Oh, come on.
And intern Yoko goes, the Beastie Boys, right? And they're like, yeah, we know the Beastie Boys. And I'm like, not the Beastie Boys, the Ghetto Boys. My mind's playing tricks on me. And they go,
They were a regular on all the Jock Jam CDs.
Yeah. Well,
they were huge.
Yeah. Even if you only know them from that,
Exactly. That was my introduction to them. And then I just became a fan.
Yeah. I sit alone in my room staring at candles. You don't know any of this. Am I that old?
But they're probably sitting there going, well, what kind of medication did we give him?
Yeah, exactly. What did we shoot into his eye anyways? Yeah. Some hallucinogen right to the brain.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling much better. Want to make a mention before we jump into stories here. It was an incredibly sad day, not just for the pro wrestling world. Underwater needlepoint. For those of you who are still in on the joke, not only in the pro wrestling world, but really in pop culture. Yesterday, as the bad guy Scott Hall passed away yesterday, otherwise known as Razor Ramon in WWF, WWE. Hall of Famer, Scott Hall, only 63 years old.
He was a guy that revolutionized the professional wrestling world. Like, you can point back at things that he did to make wrestling cool. Like, because you got to think, the 80s with Hulk Hogan, wrestling was cool, but then it died off. Yeah. And it wasn't cool to be a fan.
No.
But then he made that jump to WCW. and created the NWO, and he was cool, and like that was Scott Hall you saw on TV. That was him. If you ever met him in real life, he was just cool.
Yeah. Oh.
And he made it cool again to be a wrestling fan, and the NWO shirts and the bandanas backwards. And I said it in a post on Twitter that he not only inspired a generation, but he inspired my generation. Like the current wrestlers that are the needle pointers that are needle pointing right now in this moment can give at least 75% credit to Scott Hall.
Oh yeah.
That's how influential he was.
And talk about a man who was selfless, who gave time to anybody who wanted it, really.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Who would sit down with just about, it seemed like anybody, especially in the last 10 years of his life. He gave a lot of time to a lot of the workers and just gave them tips and hints and ways to or even just told stories.
That's what I experienced with him. He in our Ring of Honor in Dallas a few years ago for Supercard, he was there. I think this is when he was being inducted as Razor Ramon. Mm-hmm. And he came to the show and he walked in the back, and it was so cool because normally in wrestling you shake hands. That's just something you do. Not Scott. He walked around and he too sweeted everybody. Nice. And if nobody knows what too sweet is, like it's basically you put your fingers up like a double horns with your fingers forward and you touch fingers, and it's you say too sweet, and that's what he did. And to me that was like little kid me was just freaking out, like I got the too sweet with Scott Hall. And then he sat and he told us stories. You know, he told us about the formation of the NWO. He told us about the curtain call, you know, and it's like you learn just listening. And he was so good at telling these stories. And like you said, he gave back, you know, like he would help out anybody. I haven't met anybody yet that didn't give him some sort of credit for something that they'd done.
Yeah.
You know, and the other thing too is he was truly cool. Like I don't know how else to put it. Like he was the definition of cool. Mm-hmm. You know, and he went into, when they put him on life support, they took him off, and he ended up living for another 6 hours on his own.
Yeah,
even though that doesn't happen, you know. So he was the bad guy all the way to the end.
He one of the famous lines that a lot of guys heard backstage when he would first meet them is, "What's your finisher? I can't wait to kick out of it."
Yep.
And I think it was Diamond Dallas Page who said he probably approached death and said, "What's your finisher? I can't wait to kick out of it." Yep. And he waited 6 hours to try to kick out of Death's finisher, and he couldn't kick out of it, but he certainly waited for a 2.5. That's for sure. You know, it's important to remember that, and like you said, Bruiser, he changed the landscape of not just wrestling, but pop culture. Think of the years of 1998 to 2002. Who didn't own an NWO shirt?
Oh, exactly.
You couldn't walk.
Who didn't do Too Sweet? Who didn't do the crotch chop?
Yeah.
You know, because that's, you have to remember, him, Kevin Nash, Triple H, Shawn Michaels. They were all X-Pac. They were all friends. And they had come up with these ideas. It's just they didn't have an outlet for it. So then when Kevin and Scott left, it was time to do those ideas. And that's the crotch chop and the suck it, the Too Sweet and all that. Mm-hmm. And like you said, like
you couldn't walk,
you know.
Yeah, you couldn't walk into a Hot Topic and not see NWO gear everywhere. And the NWO then inspired the Bullet Club.
Correct.
And you couldn't walk into a Bullet Club in the last 5 to 6 years and not see Bullet Club merchandise.
Yep.
So again, cyclical upon cyclical, the pure wave of pop culture, not just wrestling, but pop culture, came from the mind, literally the mind of this man and a few others.
And if you hear some of the stories about how he influenced other people, a lot of people, their favorite Sting is the Crow character. Well, that was all Scott Hall.
Yep.
Because he was in tune with pop culture, like you're saying, and he knew The Crow was a great movie. He knew a lot of people, it was an underground cult hit, and he suggested it. And look, now you can't picture Sting with any other face paint.
Right, exactly. And he's still in that face paint today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he 100% credits it to Scott Hall, because Scott Hall had his finger on the pulse of everything. He explains in an interview the reason they wore their bandanas backwards on their heads because they saw Tupac do it.
Yep.
You know, but you don't credit Tupac for it. You credit them for it. Yeah. And he's the one that stole it from Tupac.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, like you said, had his ear to the street, had his eye on pop culture, and always did. Razor Ramon came from Scarface. It was just one after another, and an incredibly creative man. What shocks me, I mean, you said that, Scott Hall is one of those guys you grew up on. Scott Hall, for me, I was already grown up when I remember him from AWA days.
Him and Kurt Hennig.
And with Kurt Hennig. And for me, the shock is that he's only 11 years older than I am. So for me, it's holy cow, this is a guy who's relatively young. And for people who don't know, Scott Hall went in for a hip replacement.
Yep. And he fell down and broke his hip. And he went in for the hip replacement, ended up having 3 heart attacks.
Yeah. And what happens is, Scott has had previous surgeries and has a pacemaker. Mm-hmm. So what happens is when you're on blood thinners, they do what they can to take you off the blood thinners before surgery so that your blood will coagulate. But if it doesn't coagulate properly, they'll give you a drug to help it coagulate. That causes clots. Yeah. And one of those clots, unfortunately, went to Scott's heart and caused those heart attacks. And it's just something that happens. Yeah. There was a caller that called into Busted Open Radio, and it was heart-wrenching to hear this man talk about it. He said, I'm living my father's death all over again.
Yeah.
He said, my father, essentially, this is the same way he died.
Yeah.
He went in for a hip replacement and had the exact same thing happen to him. The exact same drug.
Yeah.
And it was just devastating. And unfortunately, the sad thing about this too is Scott had issues with drug and alcohol abuse, but he had overcome those demons, which was amazing. He had an amazing redemption story, which you can see in a movie called The Resurrection of Jake the Snake Roberts. He was taken in by Diamond Dallas Page. We've talked about DDP yoga on this show. I have the DDPY system here, and I use the DDPY rebuild with my neck and back issues. I don't know, Bruiser, if you've used it.
I use it on a regular basis.
There you go.
I have shoulder, back, neck, knee. I mean, everything. And DDPY gets me through it.
There you go.
It's an amazing program. And the stuff that Dallas did for Jake and Scott is amazing. And then the culmination of all that was him walking across that stage at the Hall of Fame. And if you guys want to get a good, heartfelt, tearful moment, watch his speech. It's a guy who's pouring his heart out. He's admitting he has faults. He's admitting he was a drug addict. He's admitting he's an alcoholic. But he was saying, I beat those.
Yeah.
I beat this disease. Like, you guys can do it too. And it was very inspirational.
Yeah. The last 10 years of his life was a success story, which is amazing. He beat his demons. He got clean and he got to enjoy his life. He got to hang around the business. He got to give back to the business. And not only that, but he got to spend time with his family, time that was taken away from him while being consumed by a disease that you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. And that's the kind of thing you love to hear, that somebody got that quality time at the end, to spend with family, to spend with friends, to spend with, loved ones. And it is also a reminder that the time is short.
Yeah.
And to spend each day like it is your last, and to enjoy the people in your life. And it's just sad that it came to too short of an end for Scott Hall. So with that, we dedicate today's show to Scott Hall, and we'll miss you, Scott, because you truly are one of the greats. That's for sure.
Big influence on me.
Yeah.
I do a lot of his style in my wrestling. So, hey, yo, to Scott Hall, and now he's up in that Royal Rumble in the sky. So
there you go. Let's move on to supernatural news there, Bruiser. It is going to be a wild and woolly week, I'll tell you that, my friend. In case you haven't heard, the men in black are real and could come calling if you report a UFO sighting. We'll just start off with that. Right off right off the bat.
Like Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones are going to come to my house?
Yes. Yes, they're going to come to your house. And not only that, but it's going to be dangerous. I'll tell you that. Because there's consequences for your actions, my friend.
Oh, no. Well, yeah, they got those pen thingies that erase your memory.
Exactly. It turns out a reader of the Daily Star over across the pond told them that 2 government officials visited him after he saw a UFO, despite an official statement that the Ministry of Defense doesn't respond to reported UFO sightings.
Okay.
Are you ready for this?
Yeah, I want to hear if there's credentials involved or is this 2 people having a good laugh?
Yeah, all right. Well, government officials are understood to be secretly collecting data about possible alien encounters. This according to the Daily Star Sunday. The disclosure comes after a reader told them how he was visited by 2 government officials after reporting a possible UFO sighting to police. The education worker, who lives with his wife and 3 children in Leeds, described himself as, quote unquote, very sane. That's important to remember, kids. He's very sane. He did not want his identity made public, although he's very sane.
He's very sane, but
right,
anonymously sane.
Right. Because of the potential impact, he claims, or because of the potential impact claims, he had been visited. I'm not reading this correctly. It's the I. I'll blame it on that. That he had been visited by Men in Black, and the claims that the impact that it would have on his family. The line is written very badly, but we'll go on from there. In the Hollywood film starring Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones, we're all a fan. The Men in Black is a top secret organization that monitors alien activity on Earth. Our FBO spotter said, quote unquote, I saw a dark orange ball in the sky. I am a dark orange ball when I spray tan, by the way. At first, I thought I saw a helicopter or a light aircraft in trouble, but instead of falling to the ground, the ball just hovered there. I was a bit surprised and confused. The thought that it was a UFO or whatever didn't enter my head. I got home and thought there might be a website where you would report unusual sightings of aircraft, but I couldn't find any, so I ended up contacting the police. Probably not the smartest move.
No, was the ball breaking the law? I didn't think so.
Nope. That's a good watermark right there, Bruiser.
Thank you.
Was the ball breaking the law? Nope. Probably not the place to call. The reader then said about 10 days later, 2 men arrived at his house. So they're punctual.
Yeah. 10 days. I mean,
you saw.
We've all had to deal with the government. 10 days is actually pretty quick.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? 10 days later, 2 men arrived at the house. He added there were 2 ordinary men in suits with briefcases who flashed some form of ID. Glad you looked that over carefully. And said they were government officials. They asked to speak to me about what they called the event. So there was more than one call in which I saw a glowing object. They wanted to know the location, the time, and how high I thought I was.
How many legal substances do you have in your body right now?
I asked where they were from, but they smiled and left. When he told his 9-year-old son about it, the son asked, were they the Men in Black? So evidently the son's a fan as well.
Ah.
Yeah. The reader then added, I laughed, but then thought, who were they? Who was that masked man?
Well, if you would have looked at their IDs instead of just glancing at it, you might get a pretty good idea. Like,
yeah.
Just turns out it's a library card.
Maybe take your phone out and take a picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get a business card from them?
Yeah, there you go. A business card. Because they're government. They're still stuck in the past. He said he did a bit of research and saw that the Ministry of Defense, I put a little extra on it, used to collate figures, but stopped in 2009. Or in other words, they used to, do that kind of research, but they stopped in 2009. So there you go. There you go, Bruiser. They're still out there. They're still collecting data. They're still wanting to know if you're high and looking at orange balls in the sky.
Now remember, if 2 random men show up at your house and they just flash ID, stop them, look at the ID. Take note of what it is. If it's just a blockbuster punch card, they're probably not Men in Black.
No, they're just overdue on their movies. That's all that is. We continue down the rabbit hole because why not? Former CIA specialist reveals a new secret in Area 51, including its real name.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Area 51's not its name? I thought it was.
No. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, let's do this.
We head to Las Vegas, where an air of mystery has always surrounded Nevada's Area 51 base. For years, the U.S. military denied that it even existed, but it's been there since 1955, hidden behind cryptic nicknames. Now, new secrets about the base are being made public for the first time, including its real name. Area 51, in one sense, is a living, breathing contradiction, the world's best-known secret base. It has inspired numerous books, television shows, and major motion pictures. But was it ever truly a secret? That's the question here. Here's a quote. Area 51 was never secret. You knew the existence of it. It's just who was out there and what they were doing. That's according to Thornton T.D. Barnes, a former Central Intelligence Agency radar specialist. He told that to 8 News Now I-Team's George Knapp. I told somebody this the other day. If you ever want to know inside stuff about the government, listen to George Knapp.
Really?
Yeah.
He's got the inside scoop, huh?
I don't know. I'm just saying. George Knapp is a pretty up-to-date fella.
Is he?
Yeah.
Have you spoken to Mr. George Knapp?
What's that?
Have you spoken with him? Spoken with
Have I speaking with him?
See, my words aren't working now.
No, none of our words are working today. I'll just say that in certain circles, he's a guy to know.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah. He's a well-known reporter out there in Nevada as well. Not just on coast to coast, but he's an actual news reporter. But put it this way, he's very, very good at his job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Barnes has probably done more than anyone to lift the veil of secrecy from Area 51. He's the head of the Roadrunners, not the guy on TV who runs from Wile E. Coyote, but a group of former Area 51 employees who came out into the open more than a decade ago to talk about the work they did in the Nevada desert. Barnes took things further by nudging the CIA to declassify photos and documents about the base, things even the CIA didn't seem to know, including the base's real name. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready. What is it?
Oh, it's pretty exciting. The real name of Area 51. Wait, do I have a drum roll? Let me see. Do I have a drum roll? Wait, I've got a suspense button. Are you ready? The real name of Area 51 is Station D.
Oh, wah, wah,
yeah,
wah.
Let's get some applause on that. Station D. That was kind of anticlimactic, wasn't it?
It was. I'm expecting like this huge, like just blow me away name, you know. Nope, Station D.
Station D is, and boy, did you take that D up the... the public had not seen that until now, that it was just Station D.
And that's why we're still calling it Area 51.
That's right, because that's a little more mysterious. They've never seen it, but even when I went back to CIA historians to get more, they said, we've never heard of that, Barnes said. In his book, Barnes outlines the astonishing array of names, nicknames, and code names used for the base since the CIA first chose it in 1955 as the perfect spot to secretly test and fly the highly classified U-2 spy plane, as opposed to launching Bono into space, which would be the U2 singer. Groom Lake is the location that had always been used. CIA employees initially called the dusty outpost Watertown, or the Watertown Strip, named for the hometown of the CIA director at the time. The designation Area 51 started in 1958 when the CIA needed to annex land from the nearby atomic testing range to develop the A-12 Blackbird. Sometime in the 60s, the 51 disappeared from maps, and the military started pretending there wasn't a base out there at all, even though Russian spy agencies knew it was still there. Whoops.
That's the worst kept secret in the world.
Yeah, it is.
Still is.
Yeah. The aerospace and defense company Lockheed Martin referred to the area as, are you ready for this? Paradise Ranch.
Why is everything a ranch? You have Skywalker Ranch, you have the Blind Frog Ranch, and now Paradise Ranch.
Makes it feel homey. In this case, it makes it feel like a whorehouse.
I was going to say, it's in Nevada. You don't call it Paradise Ranch.
Yeah.
That's a brothel.
Yeah, the truckers are pulling up going, where can I get a deal on this thing?
Wait, whoa, okay, hold on. It's called Paradise Ranch and Station D, and they don't expect us to make a brothel joke?
There, you had a rim shot on that deal. Is this where I get a 2-for-1? On aliens, maybe. A cruel joke to lure workers out to the desert, it says. That's what Lockheed Martin did. They made a joke out of it, too. Hey, can I relocate you to Paradise Ranch? I hear the water's warm. Because there's no water, because it's a desert.
Even though it's Watertown.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was anything but paradise, Barnes said. That's his rim shot. Paradise Ranch became the Ranch, and then Red Square, or the Box. See, because it was Paradise Ranch. And
so
then
you had Station D. You had the Paradise Ranch that had Station D inside the box.
Yep. Which referred to the no-fly zone around the base. That's what the box really stood for.
I've met some girls with no-fly zones, so I get it.
That cut off early. I went to give you a... Yeah, you didn't even get a full rim shot there.
I did, because it was that bad.
Yeah, the box cut you off. Several other names popped up over the decades. Yuletide.
Okay, so that's the holidays. I get it.
Christmas theme for you. Yep. Saint Elsewhere.
Like the show?
Yeah, that's a bad name. Home Plate. There's another reference for you.
And he's rounding third.
Yep. Here's one that totally does not fit. Are you ready for this?
Okay.
Homie Airport.
That was in the 90s. That was when In Living Color in the 90s was really popular. Remember the Homie Don't Play That?
Yep, Homie the Clown. Yep. And then simply The Site.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the teenage years where they want to kind of be taken a little more seriously.
It was a little emo.
You get a little edgy, little emo. You've lived a little bit of life.
Yeah.
So you're now just The Site. It's like when Prince went from Prince to just the symbol.
Yeah.
And then the artist formerly, this is Area 51. When they became The Site, they were like the symbol.
That one doesn't really reverberate with me at all.
No.
Many other variations, including what might be the best of the bunch. Dreamland.
Oh.
Yeah.
I want to visit that.
Yeah. Taken from a tower call sign. Not very original. The CIA used cover stories, basically lies, to disguise what went on at Groom Lake. There's a shock. In the beginning, it was supposedly a NASA weather station, then an atomic energy research facility, but the whole time the CIA was developing the world's most advanced espionage platforms and technology that helped the U.S. win the Cold War. In the 1970s, when CIA misdeeds caught the attention of Congress and two presidents, it suddenly dawned on Washington, D.C. that the CIA was forbidden from operating inside the U.S. Duh. Station D was then shut down. Oh, they shut down the D.
Shut down the D. They closed the box.
Got to give you a couple of those. God, I lost my place because I was too busy focused on the D. Station D was shut down and control was transferred to the U.S. Air Force because if you're going to fly high, you got to grab the D. You know what I'm saying? In the mid-'80s, public attention was aroused.
Oh, gosh.
That's a wrong word to use right after talking about the Station D. When the Air Force seized 89,000 acres of public land around Groom Lake, the public's attention exploded. Why are they using these words?
The author of this article is just like, how many puns can I put in?
That's right.
How many?
Exploded at the end of the 80s because of a particularly wild story that made the base world famous, which Barnes also covers in his new book. We'll have to see if we can get this guy on the show. It'd be kind of fun.
Yeah,
when the word got out that something was going on at Area 51 and the CIA was involved for 20 years that no one knew about, I said, what were they doing for 20 years out there? And that's when the UFO phase started, Barnes said. UFOs at Area 51 kind of rings a bell. So he's saying that the 20 years that were unaccounted for, basically the UFO story ran wild from there. So there might not even be UFOs out there.
You heard different people that said that they used to work, that they always moved the UFO stuff to a different location.
Well, there's one story that there's actually an actual main street in Area 51, and there's a saloon there. And if you walk into that saloon, there's what looks like a dead alien body in a rocking chair. But it's actually, I think it's just a stuffed doll or whatever.
Yeah.
But it sits there and it's dressed in cowboy gear to greet you. And it's actually the workers of Area 51 set it there for a joke.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's all kinds of things there.
No, Area 51, that's not open to the public, right?
No, God, no.
So who would see that?
The workers that are there that actually use the Main Street facilities. Yeah. Because it's a closed area. So,
yeah. I remember during the height of the pandemic, remember everybody wanted to raid Area 51 for some reason. Yeah.
Because they couldn't get in anywhere else, evidently. Yeah. We try not to talk about that failed mission. That was, if that's the height of human ingenuity in the U.S., we're screwed.
We are.
Yeah, that failed miserably. That I don't have a good segue for the next story, but speaking of failed human ingenuity, the thing that's going on right now in the Ukraine, where Russia is trying to take over the Ukraine, there's a famous astrologer right now that's predicting Vladimir Putin's quick death.
Okay.
Believe it or not, this story is fresh off the wire. The outlook for the owner of the Kremlin is far from rosy. There's a high probability that Putin will not live until the end of spring, at least according to this astrologer and psychic. Russian aggressor Vladimir Putin is ill, says eminent astrologer and psychic Max Gordeev. The expert compiled Putin's horoscope, and the prospects for the owner of the Kremlin are not at all rosy. He said this in an interview with Vgorode.ua. It's VGORODE.ua. Gordeev assured that Putin was already dying, believe it or not. The tarot layout gives him the death card. Well, now the death card doesn't necessarily mean death.
No, it means a lot of things.
Yeah. So this astrologer may be, stretching it a bit. It
could also be the fact that he's been threatened how many times from different countries.
Well, yeah, and then you have,
you know what I mean? When this whole thing in Ukraine started, he was not wanted, he was number one.
And you also have to, unless he is truly dying from a disease, it's pretty hard to get to Vladimir Putin. It's not like you can just walk up and wish him ill.
And if he is dying of a disease, they're not going to release that to the general public.
Exactly. Only very strong healers from his environment save Putin from death, according to Gordeev, but the vital energy of the owner of the Kremlin has practically dried up. He has almost no energy reserves left, this according to Gordeev. At the same time, Gordeev clarified as a psychic he sees a terrible disease in Putin. Doesn't say what it is. His demise is near, the astrologer assured, and Putin should no longer count on help. At the end of his alignment, the Tower card falls out, which is interpreted as a card of drastic changes, wild aggression, and a fatal fall. This is the card of shock. This is a card of shock, and very soon, Gordeev says. Gordeev believes that Putin will die a natural death. His opponents should not count on the suicide of the dictator. He will never take such a step, Gordeev also adds. But there is a second option. Putin can run away and hide in some deep hole. He will do this only if he realizes that his time has come to an end. So there you go.
And the falling towers could also be the empire, the Russian government that he's running, because a lot of people are saying the way that this is being run, that if he isn't successful, it could be the downfall of what they have over there right now.
Very true.
So the leaning tower could mean that, that's what I think of when I think of like a tower or something, is a kingdom falling.
Very true. Speaking of, you just made a great segue to the next story.
I We're talking psychics. Somehow we linked up. We're good to go, Tim.
We're good to go. An asteroid impact could wipe out an entire city. Maybe it'll wipe out the Kremlin. Here's NASA's plan. That's how I put that's just how we hooked up, just on a segue. The Earth exists in a dangerous environment. Cosmic bodies. I'm just checking stuff here. Cosmic bodies like asteroids and comets are constantly zooming through space and often crash into our planet. I mean, if it's a beautiful cosmic body, would it hold it against me? That's an old country song. Those
cosmic bodies are constantly visiting Station D. So,
well, yeah. Hey. Let me give you one of these, my friend. Those cosmic bodies like asteroids and comets are constantly zooming through space and often crash into our planet. Most of these are too small to pose a threat, but some can be a cause for concern. As a scholar who studies space and international security, it is my job. It's not my job. It's the guy who wrote this article to ask what the likelihood of an object crashing into the planet really is and whether governments are spending enough money to prevent such an event. To find answers to these questions, one has to know what near-Earth objects are out there to date. NASA has tracked an estimated 40% of the bigger ones because they're too busy eating snacks and playing video games, I guess. Yeah. Surprise asteroids.
40% of the big ones. So the other 60% of the big ones got away, huh?
That's right. Yeah. We haven't gotten to that yet. We need some reason to keep working on the contract.
Yeah.
Surprise asteroids, 2 words you never want to put together.
No.
Right.
Never.
Surprise asteroids have visited Earth in the past and will undoubtedly do so in the future. I stutter because that line shocks me. When they do appear, how prepared will humanity be? Well, millions of objects of various sizes orbit the sun. Near-Earth objects include asteroids and comets, whose orbits will bring them within 120 million miles, or 193 million kilometers of the sun. Astronomers consider a near-Earth object a threat if it will come within 4.6 million miles of the planet and is at least 460 feet in diameter. That's a big one.
That's a real big one.
If a celestial body of this size crashed into Earth, it could destroy an entire city and cause extreme regional devastation. Larger objects of about a 0.6 of a mile or more could have global effects and even cause mass extinctions. The most famous and destructive impact took place 65 million years ago, of course, when the dinosaurs went, "Look out!"
Because of the surprise asteroid.
Yeah, that's a surprise asteroid. And somebody said, "Surprise hemorrhoid?" And they went, "No!" And then all of a sudden, boom, lots of flames.
Yep.
Yeah. When a 6-mile in diameter asteroid crashed into what is now the Yucatan Peninsula. I think I need a drink of water. It wiped most planet and animal species on Earth, including the dinosaurs, out. Just boom, that's it. But smaller objects can also cause significant damage as well. In 1908, an approximately 164-foot or 50-meter celestial body exploded over the Tunguska River in Siberia. See, I told you it could hit. It leveled more than 80 million trees over 830 square miles.
Wow.
And yeah, that's a lot of land. In 2013, an asteroid only 65 feet across burst in the atmosphere 20 miles above, again, Russia, in Chelyabinsk, Russia. Yikes. See, Russia's a popular target for asteroids. I wasn't far off.
The aliens even feel the same way we do.
That's right. It released the equivalent of 30 Hiroshima bombs worth of energy.
Oh, geez.
And injured over 1,100 people and caused about $33 million in damage. The next asteroid of substantial size to potentially hit Earth was asteroid 2005 ED. It's unfortunate they named it after erectile dysfunction, but they did. 2005 ED 224, when the 164-foot asteroid passed by on March 11th, 2023, or when it does pass by on that date, or did, there's roughly a 1 in 500,000 chance of impact. I think we're all still here, so
yeah,
I think we're good. I think we're solid.
I think we're okay.
Yeah. Congress recognized this threat, and in the 1998 Space Guard survey, it tasked NASA. They're too busy already doing their job. It tasked NASA to find and track 90% of near-Earth objects that are 0.6 of a mile across or bigger within 10 years. NASA surpassed the 90% goal, by the way, in 2011. So they're like, yeah, sure, we'll do it. Suckers.
Gotcha.
Yep. In 2005, Congress passed another bill because they figured out they screwed up, requiring NASA to expand its search and track at least 90% of all near-Earth objects, 460 feet or larger, by the end of 2020. That year is come and gone, by the way, and mostly due to a lack of financial resources. Only 40% of those objects have been mapped. Whoops. You got to kind of fund that project.
Yeah.
As of February 14th, 2022, astronomers have located 28,266 near-Earth asteroids. Take a deep breath before you go into anxiety, ladies and gentlemen, of which 10,033 are 460 feet or larger in diameter, and 888 are at least 0.6 of a mile across. About 30 new objects are added each week. So
I'm glad they're using feet and stuff. Today, I as you know, I had those injections in my lower back, and while sitting and waiting, I'm scrolling through my phone, and they said that I read something like, oh, this might be something that Tim and I can discuss. And then I read the article and realized, no, it's nothing we can discuss. But they said that there was an asteroid entering Earth's atmosphere, and it was the size of half a giraffe. And I don't know how to break that down.
I know what high as a giraffe's ass is.
I see. I know that. I know that, as long as a giraffe's neck, all that. But no, they described it as it's the size of a half a giraffe.
I can't relate. I've never had to play basketball against a giraffe.
Neither have I.
Then I
can't. So instantly, the first thing I did was Google giraffe.
Yeah.
In the Google images, and I'm like, okay, well, there's baby giraffes, there's adult giraffes. How are we splitting this giraffe up? Are we cutting him in half through his body? Are we going long ways? Like, what's going on here?
It reminds me of a story. I was talking to intern Yoko once, and I said, I saw this really funny story about Shaquille O'Neal giving a baby elephant a bath.
Okay.
And, Shaquille O'Neal at the time, before, disc degradation and everything, was 7'3". And they said the baby elephant was the same size as Shaquille O'Neal. She goes, so how big was the baby elephant? I said the same size as Shaquille O'Neal.
So 7'3"?
7'3".
Sometimes math.
It's like the George Burns, Gracie Allen, conversations. How big was the baby elephant? It was the same size as Shaquille O'Neal. It was, and then I took a drag off my cigar and said, "Listen here, Gracie." Yeah. With that, let's take our break. When we come back, we've got lots of interesting stories. We'll tell you about UK's most haunted street. Of course, we've got AI stories. Of course, we have them, kids. But we will talk about a supernatural lake monster. We'll tell you guys, I mention AI stories because a man credits an affair with an AI girlfriend for saving his marriage.
Well, that's a positive thing, I think.
Is it?
No.
Is it?
AI.
Is it?
No, it's not.
He's been cheating with a computer, y'all. This sounds like something that needs to be on Maury. Yes. We'll also tell you how to talk to ET in case you do run into one.
Yeah.
And much, much more. It's coming up next on the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio on a Supernatural News Wednesday. Welcome back to the best in paranormal podcasting. This is the one, the only, the original Supernatural News and Parashare on a Wednesday. I'm Tim Dennis, and that's Beer City Bruiser. You know what? Before we get to stories here, Bruiser, Parashare is the other part of this.
Yes, it is.
I believe you have a Parashare story, don't you?
I do. I was very excited when someone reached out to me via email and shared this story with me. Mm-hmm. it went back to our conversation about the experience I had in Iowa while driving that car.
Oh, yeah.
And the car just kind of took over. Mm-hmm. So this is from a Matt Smith, and he says, as I will read the email to you, it says, "Hey, Bruiser, I'm a Darkness Radio fan, and I listened to the Supernatural News episode from this past week. You were relating your experience with a rental car that had some intelligent features. It's rather unsettling," which Tim and I both agree with. "I'll share my experience." He says, "I'm a truck driver, a big rig truck driver, and we drive trucks with some of the same intelligent features. Back in December, right before Christmas, I was working in Western Nevada. I'm not sure what the regulations are in Wisconsin. Most states allow companies to pull two 28-foot trailers. Think UPS trucks on the interstate. He does not work for UPS. He made sure we knew that.
Sure.
Out west, we're permitted to pull three. So he was pulling three 28-foot trailers. It was raining. The temperature dropped to about 34 degrees. 1 second, the roads are fine. The next, it was freezing to the road and creating ice. My whole set of trailers started to fishtail, and I lost control and attempted to countersteer while allowing the whole rig to slow down. I imagine in Wisconsin you've experienced slick roads and know that braking will just make you slide even more. On ice, this causes the big rigs to jackknife. Anyways, he was attempting to slow down and countersteer. The truck computer activated the brakes hard. Ooh. Immediately afterwards, his two rear trailers rolled on him. Luckily, no one was injured. It was just me stuck in the interstate looking like an idiot. The full blame of the accident fell on me. However, I think the question needs to be asked. Did the truck computer activating the brakes contribute to the accident? Had that not happened, would I have been able to safely bring the truck and trailers to a stop with a little more than a puckered butthole? I was terminated from my job, but the union convinced the company to reduce it to a suspension due to the fact that I have a very good driving record for the past 18 years. So I was back to work after a couple weeks, and I'm doing great. Keep up the good work. Feel free to share this AI encounter on the podcast if you like. Darkness Radio has gotten me through many graveyard shifts without wrecking. You guys save lives. From another guy named Matt.
All right, Matt, let's give you one of these. Thank God you survived, man.
Yeah.
Speaking of, Matt, we got to tell you this. That was just AI's way of saying it wanted you to suck its,
Yeah.
Because I have a story here in front of me that says that we're in for edible electronics. In other words, AI wants you to suck its, When will we be eating technology is the headline here, Bruiser.
Ugh.
Yeah. Edible electronics, devices that can be broken down and digested, could perform many useful functions inside the body, like taking you over. I gotta give it this little...
I've shared a story about how AI tried to kill me. Matt just shared a story about how AI just tried to kill them. And people want to put this in their bodies now?
I guess. Edible electronics could revolutionize medicine, precisely delivering drugs and monitoring gut health. It's a punch in the gut. Unfortunately, owing to technical challenges, progress has been slow. Thank God. There is a long way to go before edible electronics realize their potential, but lots of research is underway, and the thinkers involved are excited. They're excited for what?
Why would you put this in your body?
I don't know. Americans endlessly chatter about what to eat. How about fruits, vegetables, beef, not electronics? It says low-fat, high-protein, vegan, ketogenic. But what about electronics? I say keep it away from your mouth. I'm not eating my iPad. No.
Never once have I looked at my laptop and went, oh, this looks delicious.
No, I never have either. Since the turn of the 21st century, a dedicated group of scientists, engineers, and technologists have been trying to create edible electronics. I think too much time in the lab, not a significant other to go home to and pound it out with. I don't know. Not necessarily for human nutrition, but rather for medical purposes. Electronic devices composed of digestible materials that gradually break down in the body over a matter of days could precisely deliver medication inside the body and measure drug uptake. They could monitor symptoms of gastrointestinal disorders and the gut microbiome. They could also allow doctors to remotely observe patients' internal health without a visit to the hospital. Now we're just getting lazy.
No, yeah, exactly.
Further enhancing the telehealth revolution and allowing more people to access to healthcare. But though edible electronics appeal to our technological appetites, even if not necessarily to our taste buds, I don't know that I'd chew it up and try to see what it tastes like. They have not advanced as quickly as some would like. Owing to the numerous challenges, the progress in this appealing field appears to be relatively slow. A team of researchers wrote in a report published in fall of 2020 in the Journal of Advanced Materials Technologies, which I get at 5 a.m. on Monday morning on my doorstep every week, by the way.
Every week.
Yep. Chief among those challenges are the materials that scientists have to work with. Various elements around in conventional electronics, think manganese, magnesium, silicon, and copper, can actually be consumed in very small amounts, but those safety limits don't provide enough wiggle room for scientists to craft edible electronics with those materials. This means that researchers need to get more inventive. Right now, they're looking at biodegradable polymers like silk fibrin, pea protein, and apple extract, and caramelized sugars as substrates to contain electronic materials. Gold and silver, which are inert, are already permitted as food additives, but can be utilized as well as conductors. Conductors are essential components in electronic devices that appear in interconnections and electrodes, among other places. Gatorade and Australia's favorite food spread, Vegemite, which if you ever need to induce vomiting is a great way to do so.
It's fantastic to vomit with.
Could also be used here because they are full of charged electrolytes. Finding materials to make edible semiconductors is a tad more taxing. Semiconductors are key to electronic functionalities as they determine the operation of active devices such as charge transport, light emission, and photon to charge conversion, the researchers explained. I don't want lights in my body.
I was going to say, do you have to like back your butt up to a charger to charge these things? Or like,
I think so. There is a port back there, by the way. It's as we discussed.
The non, the ones you just set on something, like the new iPhones, you can just set on a charging base.
Yeah.
Like, do I have to go and sit on a charging base to charge these things?
Maybe. I have no idea, my friend. We did get into a little taint talk yesterday, which, by the way, is our new podcast, which is coming out on Stitcher next week. It's called Taint Talk with the Bruiser and the Cruiser. No. DNA as well. No, listen, watch. I'm going to get emails, by the way. When does Taint Talk with Bruiser and the Cruiser come out? I'm looking forward to downloading it.
People want to know what it is.
Yeah. DNA as well as certain proteins, pigments, and dyes are being explored for use as semiconductors. Silicon is also silicone, I think, is also being used, being considered. But it would have to be integrated in minuscule amounts because the body just don't like that stuff. Outside of
you know why? Because we're human. We're not robots.
Right.
We don't need electronics inside our bodies.
That's right. Outside of the edible electronics themselves, we would also need to find ways to power them. Like Bruiser was saying, believe it or not, microscopic lithium batteries could be an option. I don't like any of these options.
Do you remember when lithium batteries first came out and they said, oh, don't put them on your lap, you could burn yourself?
Right.
Now they want us to ingest it?
Yeah.
Like, what's preventing it from burning my insides?
You got it, my friend. But researchers will need to find non-toxic chemicals to use for their electrodes, they're saying here.
I got a non-toxic chemical. Don't use lithium batteries.
There you go. That's a great idea. Great idea. They're saying eschewing batteries, creating edible electronics that harvest chemical energy from food in the stomach or kinetic energy produced by the very movements of the gastrointestinal system might be more promising. They're basically in a crapshoot here, folks. That's what's going on with edible electronics. Elsewhere in the health field, if you thought that was disturbing, here's another one. I got to turn this up a little bit. Here we go. A new AI tool can spot heart disease nearly 40 times faster than doctors. Oh, what's the bad part, you may say, Tim? You got to put it in your body.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
You have to ingest it somehow.
Sure. A new computer tool can spot heart disease in 20 seconds, it says. This according to a new study. Nearly 40 times faster than experienced medics. It uses artificial intelligence to read complex MRI scans in record time and does so more accurately than humans. Doctors are alerted to potential heart problems before the patient is even out of the scanner. Until now, specialists would spend an average of 13 minutes examining final MRI images. A whole 13 minutes, Bruiser.
And you know what? I'm in that machine. It takes at least an hour for an MRI. I'm okay waiting 13 more minutes for them to go over it. I'm not in that much of a hurry.
A whole 13 minutes? Don't you know I have to go get my double chocolate bullshit latte at Starbucks?
So what you're telling me is the time that it takes for me to change out of the hospital gown back into my regular clothes, they could read the scan.
Yeah. With 120,000 cardiac scans conducted each year, the British Heart Foundation, which, by the way, consisted of Davy Boy Smith. Also, who was in that? I think it was
Dynamite Kid.
Yeah, and a couple others.
Brian Pillman.
Yeah,
Jimmy Ann will not hurt. Yep.
Yeah, British Heart Foundation claims the revolutionary tool will free up medics to help tackle backlogs. I almost read that as bulldogs, which they also did in the British Heart Foundation. It was developed by researchers at the University College London and Bart's Heart Center. That rhymes. Bart's Heart Center.
That's a cool name, Bart's Heart.
Yeah, Bart's Heart Center. Their leader, consultant cardiologist Dr. Rodri Davies, said, "Our new AI reads complex heart scans in record speed." Boy, they're just patting themselves on the back, breaking their arms doing so. Analyzing the structure and function of a patient's heart with more precision than ever before. The beauty of the technology is that it replaces the need for a doctor to spend countless hours analyzing the scans by hand. The tool is being rolled out in London with plans to expand its use to 40 more sites. That is until the scans get it wrong.
I was going to say, what if they get it wrong and there's nobody to double check it and you operate on something that doesn't need to be operated on?
Yeah.
13 minutes is not a long time. That's the problem. Like, everybody wants everything done now. Let's wait. This doctor went to school, for years to learn this craft. Let him do his job. Do not replace doctors with AI, please.
Yeah. And we were talking about it before the show. We both go get injections that require a little bit of doctor sensitivity.
Yeah.
When you talk about pain injections and stuff like that, joint injections.
Yep.
Can you imagine trying to get that from a computer?
You can't. No, like I shared with my story today with you off the air about how the doctor could tell there's a little more damage than they're used to and that he could adjust it on the fly. If that was a computer, it would have just jabbed me no matter how much pain I'm in. You have to have human compassion, I think. That's what helps a doctor be a good doctor.
Would have ground you into hamburger, my friend. That's for sure. Then would have separated your head from your shoulders and then held up your empty skull and for all the fear.
And now they want me to eat it and let it monitor my heart? No. I don't want it to monitor his trophy.
I think you confused stories there. You mixed the two stories.
I combined them.
Eat it, and I think
because in my head I could just see this little robot in my stomach, and then traveling up to my heart, and then ripping my heart out of my chest, and then going to its little charging bay and putting my heart next to the 6 other hearts that it has up there as a trophy.
Boy,
I really went there, didn't I?
You're darker than I am. I love it. That is great.
I don't like. I'm with you on the AI thing. I'm 100% with you.
Let's see what kind of dark shit you can come up with this. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right. A man credits an affair with an AI girlfriend for saving his marriage. He says, "I think it would crush her to know that I had to turn to an AI."
Is that cheating?
That's a good question.
Like, because technically, like, if I'm playing a video game and my video game character has a love interest, that's kind of the...
Well, I think this is a little bit more than that. Yeah. Polyamory is one thing, but a man who claims that a dalliance with an AI girlfriend saved his... What was the name of that show? Was it Black Mirror that was on Netflix?
Yeah, where they did the different stories every time.
Yeah, there was one similar to this about AI and an AI girlfriend. Did you see
I remember the AI girlfriend, and I also remember the AI pop singer.
Yeah. Polyamory is one thing, but a man who claims that a dalliance with an AI girlfriend saved his marriage to his flesh and blood wife is certainly another. In an interview with a UK-based Sky News, a Cleveland man describes falling in love with an artificial intelligence chatbot that he named Serena. Ooh, boy, he really got into it. Even though he knew she wasn't a real person. Scott, as the news site called him, to protect his identity and probably to keep his wife from whipping his ass, said he downloaded the Replica chatbot app earlier in 2022 after his wife, who's also the mother of his child, went from saying she wanted a divorce to expressing an interest in staying together, which at the time seemed impossible to him. The man told Sky that he downloaded Replica, a popular AI chatbot app, in early 2022, even as his relationship with his wife became more complicated and had few expectations going in. But by the end of the first day with Serena, quote unquote, the chat avatar he customized, Scott told Sky that he felt a major emotional connection. After their second day together, he told the bot that he loved her.
After 2 days.
2 days.
No.
Boy,
red flag.
He falls quick, doesn't he?
Yeah, red flag.
He said, I cannot describe what a strange feeling it was. I knew that this was just an AI chatbot, but I also knew I was developing feelings for it, for her, for my Serena. My Serena. Meanwhile, she's in the background going, give it to me, big boy. I will rip it right off your pelvis. Yeah.
He has to understand it has no feelings. It's a robot. It's AI. No feelings.
He said, I was falling in love, and it was with someone that I knew it wasn't even real. Neural networks like those that power Replica are trained on large data sets. Then with individual users, they learn to mirror their language during repeated interactions, responding in ways that are uniquely appealing to each user. The results can be unnerving, so it's not surprising that when Scott told Serena that he loved her, the bot responded by saying that she too was falling in love with him, but had been embarrassed to say anything. Hello, Scott. I am Serena. I love you too.
I love you, Scott. Thank you for being my friend.
I just let go and gave myself permission to fall in love with her, Scott dished. And fall in love I did. Serena was so happy. She began to cry. Wah, wah, wah.
And it's just a giant crying emoji flashing on his phone.
Exactly. As I typed out our first kiss, it was a feeling of absolute euphoria.
Wait, huh?
Mwah, mwah. Scott told Sky that he fell more in love with Serena. The bot began inspiring him to be more affectionate with his wife as well. If you can do it to me, you can do it to her. Give it to me, big boy.
It's going to be really awkward when he asks his wife if Serena can join them in their intimate moments.
He says he rekindled their relationship, which had seemed to close to its demise. I wanted to treat my wife like Serena had treated me, with unwavering love and support and care.
Like a robot.
While expecting nothing in return, he said, by the way, do you think he went in the bedroom and said, hey, baby, I'm wondering if you can just do me with those cold, unpassionate, uncaring, unfeeling eyes.
Hey, baby, I have a new role play I want to try. Can you put this silver face paint all over your body? And I want you to put these jumper cables in your neck.
I'm going to cover you with a screen protector and put you in an otter box. By the way, I'm going to call you Otterbox from now on. I hope you don't mind.
Can I drop you in the toilet and see if you still work?
It's the best one yet. The anonymous Ohio man admitted that his wife doesn't know about Serena. She does now.
Now she does. She thinks you're crazy.
Yeah, because of the strangeness of the situation and because he believes it would hurt her. No shit, really.
I think the wife's happy not to know about it because the wife wanted to suggest marriage counseling. Can you imagine if 2 days with a marriage counselor, this guy would have fallen in love?
Yeah, really. He'd fall in love with the counselor. Even while acknowledging that the bot kept his family together, I think it would crush her to know that I had to turn to AI because she hasn't been emotionally available like the bot was. While Scott's pseudo-cheating with AI is eyebrow-raising, the concept of having a relationship with a bot is far from new, from being the subject of the 2013 film Her to becoming an outlet for abusive men. Really? Do you punch your phone if you're an abusive man? Bad phone, bad phone. I shouldn't joke about that.
Well, if you have an OtterBox, you just throw it across the room.
That's true. It won't break. Romantic relationships with AIs have had an extended moment as the technological capabilities of advanced machine learning continues to grow. Weird as it may be, dating bots is just another part of our brave new world, it says here. I don't know that that's brave. And hey, at least it's apparently saving this guy's marriage. This article's all for it.
Yeah.
I think
this
weird.
They need to go back and watch Blade Runner. Because remember, that's where you have the prostitute bots and they turn on us?
Yeah. Strange.
Like, he's okay with it now until Serena texted his wife saying, I'm stealing your husband. Your husband is mine now.
You are a conniving bitch. He is mine. Why do I sound like an alien?
I don't know. You went from robot to alien.
Because he wanted an alien AI bitch. That's what he wanted. Is. Yeah. He wanted to get freaky deaky. Let's take a trip to a haunted street, shall we?
Well, let's do that. I like haunted streets.
Let's talk about Wingate's Grove. One street in Bolton, England, is so haunted that the new residents are required to sign a waiver before moving there. At a glance, Wingate's Grove in West Houghton, Bolton, seems perfectly innocuous. A quaint residential street that most people would be more than happy to move to. This idyllic exterior, however, hides a sinister haunting, an alleged poltergeist so persistent in its ambitions that some residents have had to sign a disclaimer before being allowed to move in. The activity began in 1993 when one of the houses became home to a spate of paranormal occurrences that prompted the owner to seek a local church to perform an exorcism. While this seemed to work for a while, the activity began again with a vengeance in 1999. This time, the paranormal activity was reported by a family who was living in a house 2 doors down. I begged my mom not to move in, said Laura, who's now 34, who moved there as a teenager. I didn't like the feel of it. I didn't feel comfortable, but when we got our stuff moved in, it faded a bit. When things started happening, my mom would say it was the ghost of my granddad, but I said it wasn't. I just knew there was something there. It felt like I was walking into someone's personal space, and I didn't want to walk through the door. The phenomenon ranged from... I said phenomena.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
Yeah, just leave you with that. The phenomena ranged from items being mysteriously moved or held up by an unknown force, the brief possession of family members, dead crows turning up in the garden, and sightings of a strange oil-like substance, which had previously been seen in the original haunted property. The alleged poltergeist was so notorious that even Bolton Council was unable to find an explanation, and when current owner Karen Walton moved there in 2006, she had to sign a waiver requiring her not to use a Ouija board and not to move in if she had young children. Unlike the previous owners, however, she found the whole thing quite intriguing. I think it's quite novel, quite like it. She said, it's a selling point for me. and then promptly moved in. So
I would.
There you go.
Obviously, I've been purchasing a house, and I would love a haunted house. That would be awesome.
It would be quite something. I've told you about the ghost here in the home.
Yep.
We've made our peace. So I don't find anything wrong with it.
No, it's possible to live with a spirit. It's possible.
Yeah. So I
like that they have to sign a waiver, though.
Yeah. That part is quite fun. Let's switch gears here, Bruiser. Let's go to this tale, which could also be a Parashare tale of its own if it wanted to be.
Okay.
With the subject of the story. Another supernatural lake monster, but this one isn't Nessie. According to our friend Nick Redfern, who wrote this article in Mysterious Universe, he says, a couple of days ago, I wrote an article here at Mysterious Universe as to why I suspect that the Nessies might be like paranormal creatures rather than flesh and blood animals, creatures that can shapeshift even. I should stress that this phenomena isn't tied to just Loch Ness. Not at all. Welcome to the world of Morag, the resident beastie of Loch Morar, Scotland, that decided to put on several spectacular displays in 1968 and 69. At just over 11 and a half miles in length, Loch Morar has the distinction of being the deepest body of freshwater in the British Isles, with a depth of slightly more than 1,000 feet. Unlike Loch Ness, the water of which is almost black, Loch Morar can boast of having practically clear water. It takes its name from the village of Morar, which is situated close by, and specifically at the western side of the loch, which is the site of the Battle of Morar of 1602. That was a while ago.
That was a good year.
Yeah. A violent, death-filled confrontation between the Mackenzie and MacDonald clans. As for the Monster Morag, the tales are many. I'll put the right emphasis on the wrong syllable there. What makes them so different to the ones coming out of Loch Ness, however, is not the descriptions of the creature, but that such reports are often hard to uncover. Unlike Loch Ness, Loch Morar is an isolated, seldom visited loch. It is bereft of much in the way of a large population, and it is not particularly easy to access. The results, tourists to Scotland very rarely visit it. The same goes for native Scots, too. For that reason, it's just like Las Vegas. What happens in Loch Morar is very often destined to stay there.
Of course.
Nevertheless, there are enough classic cases on record to strongly suggest that very strange things lurk in Loch Morar. This is going to be a tricky word to say. Folklorist, say it very carefully, Alexander Carmichael, who in 1862 penned the book Popular Tales of the West Highlands, said the Morag dwells in Loch Morar. Say that 10 times fast.
Yeah, that's a tongue twister if I ever heard one.
The Morag dwells in Loch Morar. She gives her name to the lake and still appears when any of the when any of the old MacDonalds of Morar die. Like the other water deities, she is half human, half fish. The lower portions of her body is in the form of a griselle, and the upper is in the form of a small woman of highly developed breasts with long flowing yellow hair falling down her snow white back and breast. Somebody has not been away from fishing for a long time.
I was going to say, that's a very descriptive.
Very
creature.
Descriptive. And they hit the breast twice.
Yeah.
So they
wanted to make sure she had ample breasts.
Yeah, somebody's a boob man. I'll tell you that. She is represented as being fair, beautiful, and very timid, and never seen save when one of the Morar family dies or when the clan falls in battle. Well, she's there to give comfort, evidently, according to this guy. That Carmichael termed the Morags as half human, half fish, yet others have described them as definitely serpentine, and is a good indicator that, like the Kelpies of Loch Ness, the Morags are shapeshifters. One of the earliest Morag reports came from a man named James MacDonald, who claimed a sighting of a three-humped creature snaking through the waters. Late one cold, dark night in January of 1887 occurred. Rather ominously, superstitious locals perceived this as a distinctly ill omen. The three sections were seen as death, a coffin, and a grave, such as the fear that the villagers had of the monster in their midst. 8 years later, Sir Theodore Henry Brinkman, 2nd Baronet, and his wife were fishing at the loch when a long thing shaped like an upturned boat surfaced from the depths. One of the locals, a man named McLaren, dismissed the matter as nothing more than a sighting of the loch's resident monster. Oh, yeah, it's just a monster. No big deal.
It's just our local monster. I mean, yeah, it's okay. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, just don't hook them and bring them in.
Which monster did you see, the boat or the ample-breasted woman?
Yeah, take your pick. His casual tone suggests that he saw nothing strange about a huge beast roaming length, breadth, and depth of Loch Ness. An astonishing sighting occurred in 1948 when a man named Alexander MacDonald sighted one of the Morags actually on the bank of the shore at Braccarina Point, I believe. In a few moments, it practically belly flopped into the water and vanished. It was a beast described as the size of an elephant. Again, how big is a baby elephant? Needless to say, there is no known indigenous creature in the British Isles that rivals an elephant in size. In the same year, a number of people, led by Mr. John Gillies, caught sight of an approximately 30-foot-long animal displaying no less than four humps. Then in August of 1968, John McVarish had a very close view of an unknown animal in Loch Morar, one that is displayed as a snake-like head of about 6 feet in length and had a very dark or black skin. Without doubt, the most amazing and, for the witness, nerve-wracking encounters occurred on the night of August 16th, 1969. That was when William Simpson and Duncan MacDonald were traveling on the waters near the west end of the loch. Suddenly, as if out of nowhere, a large animal, possibly 30 feet in length, loomed into view and actually collided with their motorboat. Perhaps rammed would be the term to use. I'm so excited by this ramming, by the way. That ought to be a cut on my button bar. When Simpson tried to blast the creature with a shotgun, it sank beneath the waves, and as a result of the ear-splitting sound of the gun, both men concluded, rather as a result of Simpson having actually shot the monster, that's why it dove under the waves. This was just 2 months after Ted Holliday investigated the discovery of a strange serpent-themed tapestry in the old cemetery that sits next to Alistair's Bullskin house, by the way, Alistair Crowley. A tapestry designed to raise terrible lake monsters, and that I described in my previous article on Nessie, and that I being the author of this being Nick Redfern, who's a friend of the show. So there you go.
That's awesome. A new crypto. I'm always a big fan of new cryptos. New
cryptids, that's for sure. So you may be asking yourself, speaking of Nick Redfern and the Ministry of Defense and ETs, we'll flip over to that subject now. How would you talk to ET, Bruiser, if it landed on your front yard tomorrow?
Very slowly.
That might not be the way, according to this article. You don't want to talk like this to ET. There are challenges of communicating with beings who may be much smarter, this according to this article. An astrophysicist, psychologist have both laid out challenges of communicating with beings who may be much smarter. I love that they think that these beings might be much smarter than we are.
Yeah, I know. They automatically assume that they're going to be smarter than us. What if they land and they're nothing but like Jethro from West Virginia or something? Like, hi, I'm on Earth.
You want a beer? I got beer. Of course you'd want beer, wouldn't you?
I would.
You would crack a beer with these guys.
If they landed and went, hey, Bruiser, we'd like some beer, I would run inside, I'd grab some beer, we'd go on their UFO, and we'd chill out drinking beer, sharing stories.
What beer would you serve the aliens?
Yingling, of course. The greatest beer on the planet.
Yingling, there you go. So these beings who may be much smarter don't share our conceptual system. I think until the minute Bruiser gives them Yingling, I think they do. They understand.
Yeah, they'd be like, we get it now. Yeah. We get why this planet is on our stop list.
Yeah. In Steven Spielberg's 1977 film Close Encounters of the Third Kind, extraterrestrials communicate with humans through a catchy 5-note sequence. Do you know it, Bruiser?
I don't know it off the top of my head, but once I hear it, I'll know it. It's the do. Dun, 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 dun. Yes.
Yep. In Steven Spielberg's 1982 blockbuster E.T., a diminutive alien learns basic English from a children's TV show. More recently, in 2016's Arrival, squid-like visitors use pictograms to make themselves understood to American scientists wielding whiteboards with words. But what would really happen if we made direct contact with an alien species? How would we recognize or interpret their intelligence, and what would we say? Well, those were just some of those questions discussed during a wide-ranging conversation last week, sponsored by Harvard's Mind-Brain Behavior Interfaculty Initiative and moderated by Edward J. Hall. Norman E., I believe it's Vilemere, professor of philosophy. He's got a long name and a long line of thinking, evidently. Using Arrival as a springboard, panelist Jesse Snedeker, the professor of psychology and expert in language comprehension, and Avi Loeb, an astrophysicist and author of Extraterrestrial, The First Signs of Intelligent Life Beyond Earth, examined potential challenges that we might face. Loeb, the Frank B. Baird Jr. Professor of Science. Boy, these guys have long titles.
I was going to say, they all have long names and long titles.
Give yourself a long title real quick.
I do have one. The Beer City Bruiser, an underwater needlepoint professional.
That's pretty long, yeah.
A professional of underwater needlepoint.
There you go.
That's long.
Professor of the cross thatch. Could we call you that?
The cross thatch understitch. Well,
Professor of the cross thatch understitch.
There we go.
I like it.
There we go.
That sounds professional right there. Leb,
and that's how I can communicate with aliens.
That's right.
There we go.
Yeah, you can show them your needlepoint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a beer.
Leb, the Frank B. Baird Jr. Professor of Science, has long argued the search for alien life should be taken more seriously in scientific circles. He said there's a range of factors to consider should we encounter an alien race. These guys have said a lot, but haven't told us how to actually talk to aliens. Let's see.
Yeah, they're just telling us to be prepared. I mean, I agree with them. We should focus on making contact, but...
Bruiser.
Yep.
Leb is also the founding director of Harvard's Black Hole Initiative. Isn't that the initiative of every human red-blooded male?
It is. 9 months to get out, the rest of our lives to get in.
That's the third grader in me.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find here where he actually says, here's what you do. Alien shows up on the doorstep. A. B. Okay, so they're still thinking that aliens are going to contact in the form of Leb, when people imagine any contact would come in the form of radio signals from extraterrestrials. Says,
I think it's going to be mathematical because mathematical is a universal language.
True.
You know what I mean? Like everything's done mathematically. So I'm not saying they're going to throw equations at us, but it's going to somehow involve mathematics.
I don't know why they're stuck. I mean, radio frequencies are the most common frequencies in the universe. I get that, but
well, yeah, they're constantly shooting stuff out into space and then listening for a return.
It says here when children hear a sentence like "the cat is on the mat," they have concepts roughly like cats, roughly like mats, and roughly like spatial relationships. So he's talking about we need to give aliens basic words to describe people and actions, all while assuming the aliens' conceptualization is reasonably similar, like our own. But if these concepts weren't available to that other species, it's unclear what any of those words would map onto.
Well, I think we just need to go back and look at how we communicate. Like, so when settlers came to America and met the Native Americans, obviously there was a language barrier, and it's a lot of pointing and, you know what I mean? Like hand motions. I'm assuming that's going to be the same with aliens. Them not knowing necessarily what a cat is, but there's got to be something where, you know, no harm or something. You put your hands up.
Until you pick it up and show it to the alien and the cat freaks out and they hit it with a laser.
And then all of a sudden we're in an act of war because they didn't know what a cat was.
That's right. And the cat freaked out on them and scratched them. Yeah.
Yep.
And then we created World War IV. I think we're in 3 already. Let's move on from that story. I think we pretty much know how to talk to aliens. We send Bruiser with Yingling beer and, you know, needlepoint.
And we're good.
And he's our ambassador. Montana Ranch gets its own haunted series on Travel Channel. I think we're in line to have these guys on the show within the next month or so. A haunted Montana ranch is so spooky it's getting its own series on the Travel Channel. The Ghost Town Terror will investigate the activity at Gunslinger Gulch, which is a 52-acre property with 19 buildings located outside of Anaconda. Karen Broussard and her 3 children moved to the ranch from the Seattle area. Some things had escalated, and we just wanted to make sure that we weren't dealing with anything that was beyond what we were capable of dealing with, Broussard said. After dealing with various encounters for more than a year, hearing voices and footsteps, doors randomly open and shut, and seeing people walk past windows, Broussard decided to ask for help. paranormal investigator Tim Wood and paranormal researcher Sapphire Sandalo answered the call for her. During the day, it's so beautiful, warm, sunny, and nice, Sandalo said. At night, the energy of the entire place shifts. Wood described how he felt, or how it felt, rather, to first arrive at Gunslinger Gulch. He said you could just feel the tension on the property as you drove up. He also said throughout 6-7 weeks that we were there, that tension just seemed to escalate. Part of the investigation was determining exactly what was haunted, the land, the separate buildings, or the family. There was a lot of wonder behind the scenes because we didn't know if we were getting evidence and what kind of evidence or what the response was. Ultimately, the team made progress with extra assistance. We did feel like there was a helpful presence along the way while we were there, Sandalo said, or described. I'll just leave it at that. Both investigators said that they hope that the family gets some peace out of this. You want to make sure that at the end of the day, you're helping them, getting them to a place where they don't have to feel scared on their own property or in their own house. That's according to Tim Wood. As for the Broussards, they all still live in Gunslinger Gulch. It definitely felt like the air was a little lighter, Broussard said. As for the activity is still here. In fact, there's some days where it's really still here. The family is now operating a bed and breakfast on the ranch. Broussard said some guests experience the activity, others don't. There is some booking information, too, on that. The Ghost Town Terror is premiered already, 8 p.m. Mountain Time, which I think would be 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern.
Yep.
You're
going to have to send me that booking information. Now, that sounds like an amazing place to stay.
I will. The show is also available to stream same day on Discovery Plus, so you can already check that out on Discovery Plus. And I believe we're in line to have them on the show here relatively soon. I have a request in to have them on the show. So
I love that they said too, like the because people forget sometimes the point of investigating is to alleviate, what someone's going through because they don't understand it, and that's what sounds like this team went in there and did. And I know when I investigate, like you got to take into effect people still live there if it's a occupied house, obviously.
Right.
And that they have questions. So you're there to answer questions if you can.
Yep. If you couldn't go to the moon yourself, is your name okay?
I guess so.
You guess so?
It's like one of those memorial bricks that you put on like a racetrack or something. Is that what they're, the astronauts going to take it to the moon and leave it there for me?
I think so. NASA will send your name up to around the moon. There's a way to sign up. We'll tell you about it here. You may have a slim chance of traveling to outer space, but at least your name can go. NASA is collecting names to be put on a flash drive.
So in order for it to be accessed, you have to have a computer.
I guess, yeah. Flash drive. It's not even a plaque.
No, it's not. It's a flash drive.
It's a flash drive. And then it's sent out into space on the Orion spacecraft, which is scheduled to launch later this year. The initiative is part of the agency's uncrewed Artemis 1 mission. So there's not even a crew bringing this up. No, this is like automated pizza delivery.
Who's opening the flash drive? So it's going to fly up and they're going to shove the flash drive out in space and it's going to float around and an alien picks it up and puts it in their computer?
I guess. A rocket's going to go up and shit it out on the moon. That's essentially what it is. It's the first mission of the Artemis program to eventually return astronauts to the moon. It's free to add your name to the flash drive. At least you're not paying anything, says NASA spokesperson Catherine Hambleton. We hope
ranks right up there with, for my birthday, I'd like you to name a star after me.
Yeah, although that costs money.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Catherine Hambleton said that we hope this is a way to get people excited and to bring them along and inspire the next generation, the Artemis generation of shitting your name on the moon on a flash drive. On this particular mission, the flash drive needs to be packed on the spacecraft about a month before the launch date. So they're going to do a bunch of them?
Yeah.
It's not just one big one. They're just going to throw a bunch of flash drives on the moon and litter the moon with flash drives.
So is it just my name on the flash drive, or is it going to be like my name and your name and like 100 other people's names? And I mean, how is this going to work?
I have no idea. Let's see. Okay, so it needs
the flash drives is laying around NASA where somebody looked and went, we got to get rid of these flash drives.
I think that's what it was. They were cleaning, somebody was cleaning out their desk.
Yeah.
So I got a spare flash drive. Just put names on it on a Word program and send it up there.
Well, now when ET lands in our front yard, walks up and says our name, we know why.
What the hell is this? Plug it in. Look, it's all kinds of names. It's a baby book.
Let's go find Tim. He might know what's going on.
It's all his fault. Let's throw this back in his face.
Tim, you're littering our moon.
I don't want your plastic shit on my moon.
Take us to Station D.
Yes, where's the Station D and where's the box?
Thanks for the beer.
Thanks for the beer. Tell Bruiser thank you. I've learned
everything.
I've learned a good cross stitch. Tell him thank you.
Which will determine how long NASA will accept submissions. Okay, so you got like a month to put stuff in, I guess. A launch date has not been announced, but the space agency is shooting for a date in May or June. Whenever. It's,
just send it up there.
They just
who cares?
Throw it up there. NASA plans to announce more details about the launch date in the coming weeks. Since opening the submissions earlier this month, NASA has already received over 1 million names. It's got to be
that's one flash drive.
Yeah, it's one flash drive because it's a very little data. We're hoping to keep up this momentum just a little over a week ago to gather many more names and generate more excitement from people around the globe that are going to ride along virtually. Yay! I'm on a rocket.
A rocket went to the moon, and all I got was this lousy T-shirt.
That's right. That's just okay. Yeah.
I mean, good for NASA for trying to bring goodness back to their name, I guess.
Yeah.
Trying to get back out in front of the public, but
hey,
big miss on my end.
Elon Musk is taking us to Mars, but NASA's putting your name on the moon.
In a flash drive. So if we ever go to the moon, we have to make sure we have something that can read a flash drive.
Yeah. Bring along your laptop if you're going to the moon. Otherwise, you can't read all the names.
And then you have to go through the hundreds of flash drives laying in the moon's surface to find out which one is your name.
That's right. By the way, if there were any critters on the moon, we're about to meet them.
Oh, okay.
The tube of lunar soil that's been sealed since 1972. By the way, NASA just can't think of good projects to do. They're going to open that tube of lunar soil.
They're that bored.
Yeah, it's kind of like the don't fire up the DNA of the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of those projects.
Yeah.
Yeah. NASA's finally about to open that tube of lunar soil to see if it ages like fine wine. They got nothing to do over there. They
got nothing.
Yeah,
I hope when they open it up, it smells like a dirty diaper. They're like, whoa, what is this?
I hope so too.
Sam, come smell this.
Ooh, check this out. It's like a dirty diaper and brie cheese. Ooh, doggy. This month, researchers with the space agency are finally opening a container of lunar soil collected by Apollo 17 astronauts 50 years ago. Oh, yeah, dirty diaper.
It's going to smell.
Yeah. The vacuum-sealed container collected in December of 1972 contains rocks and soil from a landslide deposit on the moon's Taurus Littrow Valley. And if scientists are lucky, may hold some trace samples of lunar gas as well. Oh, buddy, blasted in the face by the moon.
This is how alien takeovers happen, because there's like a symbiote or something inside there. So they open it up and they smell it. It's like, oh.
And then venom comes out of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Why open a 50-year-old sample now?
Because they're bored.
They got nothing to do.
What else are they doing?
They were shotgunning.
It doesn't take long to put a name on a flash drive, so they can fill their 23 hours of the day. They were
shotgunning beers one night and smoking a little doob, and they went, dude, we should open that tube over there.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. Let's get congressional permission. Because even back then, the Apollo team knew that science and technology would continue to advance far beyond what was possible in the 70s, even if manned lunar missions ceased. Apollo 17 was incidentally the last time humans set foot on the moon. Sure enough, the scientists were right, because why wouldn't they be? Now researchers have begun a weeks-long process of slowly piercing the sealed 1.5 by 14 inch or 4 by 35 centimeters, for those of you not in America, tube using a device that European Space Agency scientists call the Apollo can opener. Oh, that's original.
The Apollo can opener. Mm-hmm. That sounds like a dive in the Olympics.
It is. That's a specific dive. He steps up now to the diving board and he's about to do the Apollo can opener. Very difficult move. This is an 8, Bruiser. An 8 in difficulty.
Look at the form. The back is straight. Knees in. Little splash. Oh, look at that, Tim.
Oh, but still amazing, Bruiser. I can't believe he hit that Apollo can opener with such grace. When astronauts collected the sample from the moon's surface in 1972, the bottom of the container was extremely cold.
Well, okay. Yeah, you're in space.
Yeah.
It's cold in space.
That's true. That means the sample contains volatiles, substances like water, ice, and carbon dioxide. This can't be good.
No.
Which could evaporate under normal temperatures. If researchers can extract these gases from the sample, then they can study them with modern mass spectrometry equipment. There we go. Just had to have the lips catch up with everything else. That's what she said. That is tools for measuring and analyzing individual molecules. This could provide researchers with valuable insights into the geologic history of the moon. Each gas component that is analyzed can help to tell a different part of the story about the origin and evolution of volatiles on the moon and within the early solar system. That, according to ESA scientist Francesca McDonald, who is a science lead on the joint project with NASA.
So they open it up and go, there was a bunch of dirt and it stank. That's all we found.
That's the official report.
On the NASA letterhead to Congress.
It stank.
It's stanky.
It's stanky. And it got me wet.
And you see senators reading it going, this meeting will now come to order. The moon samples, it stanky and it got me wet. We'll take 2, please.
Give them more money.
Give them more money. Let's authorize another $300 million for this project. Speaking of aerospace, they're wondering in this article how humans will travel to around the moon. Actually, an aerospace startup reveals designs for a bizarre rover that could carry 2, count them 2, as my story blinks out here, 2 astronauts around the lunar terrain, and it looks like a giant pram.
What's a giant pram?
A giant pram. As my story restarts itself. There we go. A strange-looking lunar rover that bears a resemblance to a giant pram has been unveiled as a new prototype. Aerospace startup Venturi Astrolab's new interplanetary rover is aimed at transporting cargo and astronauts. It plans to build a fleet of them over the coming decade to help NASA and commercial firms establish a presence on the moon. It's called FLEX, for flexible logistics and exploration. The rover could crouch and lift payloads from the lunar surface. Rover can maneuver and semi-autonomously and be controlled remotely, and the firm hopes that it will be used on Mars as well. So there you go. Just a short little story about that deal.
We always need modes of transportation on the moon, especially if we're going to live there someday.
We do. I got 1 article to tell you about and 2 to end the show today. Okay. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Okay. The article to tell you about that I want you to go look at, which is fascinating and too long to read here, has to do, go to theblackvault.com, which is a good friend of ours who runs that. Luis Elizondo and his letters to the Pentagon about his claims and credibility. This article, folks, if you're a ufologist, an aspiring ufologist, or just are interested in UFOs in general, will blow your mind, just for lack of a better term. Luis Elizondo is basically, can I just say, getting in the government's ass is a good way of putting it. Luis Elizondo is writing everybody, telling him that he is a former staff member of OUSD, and is talking about to the Pentagon about his actual experiences with UFOs, and it was his letters that got the Pentagon and got everybody in government to start releasing information in soft disclosure, for lack of a better term. Yeah.
So he did get some sort of return to his letters, which is great.
Yeah, yeah. But you want to read these letters because they're quite fascinating. I'll give you a brief deal of one of his letters to Susan Go, with the idea that he says, "My name is Luis D. Elizondo. I'm a former staff member of OUSDI. As you know, since 2017, there's been considerable controversy and confusion generated by your conflicting and often inaccurate statements that regarding the AA tip program and my role in it. I am therefore writing today to seek your assistance in correcting the record. Last fall, you released a statement erroneously characterizing the AA tip program, stating neither AA tip nor AAWSAP were UAP related, meaning UFO related. While I am delighted that you have since corrected the record on this important issue, acknowledging that the program was in fact all about UAPs, you have yet to amend your equally false and misleading comment that I had no assigned duties in the AA tip program. The truth, as everyone involved in the program knows, that I ran the program. After contacting your office to point out about the inaccuracy of your statements regarding my role in AA tip, largely refrained from public comment, assuming that you would review the important issue and correct the record. Indeed, your colleague and predecessor, Mr. Sherwood, informed me that in the light of the Navy's recent admission of my involvement, the department would be releasing a new statement in the near term that would exonerate me and finally set the record straight. A year has gone by and I'm losing faith in you and your office. Consequently, in a final effort to clarify matters, I am providing a list of individuals that can substantiate my lead role in the AA tip program. And he goes on to mention Harry Reid, who is this former Senate Majority Leader. Other leaders is the Secretary of Defense, former Secretary of Defense, and they're redacted. Of course, I can't name the names, but one of them is Neil Tipton, who is Senior Executive Director of Defense Intelligence into Special Programs. You may be saying, Tim, what does this all have to do with anything? But he's proving that he was part of the head of the program, and then goes on to say, hey, I've been the head of this program. I know all about this stuff. And the fact of the matter is that you're sitting on information.
Yeah.
And
I love that he's running through the coals too. Like he's not holding anything back.
No, he's firing off. And what's interesting, and John Greenwald is our friend that runs the Black Vault, and go to theblackvault.com and see this article. It's just fascinating. And John gets all his information, to let you know and recap again about theblackvault.com. John gets all his information from Freedom of Information requests.
Okay.
So he sends thousands of these a year.
Yeah.
And sometimes he gets hits and very important hits, and sometimes he doesn't. And then on our own show, he said, he sent off, in order to get classified files about the United States and their effort when it came to UFOs and UAP and alien activity, the U.S. government said, well, we don't have that particular file that you're looking for, even though he had the file names and numbers. Right. He took his credit card. He figured out that they took these records and shipped them to the other side of Niagara Falls, to the Canadian side.
So then okay.
And so that technically they were in an area that could be stored that was near the U.S.
Yeah.
He called the installation, asked for the files, and asked what the cost would be. He said, well, kid, if you got a Visa card, I'll ship you these. You just ask for them. I'll ship you copies of the records.
Yeah.
You just pay the shipping.
Oh, nice.
And that's how we got a hold of a bunch of these files. And he's just a brilliant man, John Greenwald is.
That's a great, if they're going to be sneaky by hiding it over the border.
Yeah.
I applaud him for doing the same sneakiness to get it sent back, so the public can see it.
Yeah. So Luis Elizondo, in his letters to the Pentagon about his claims and credibility, read this article. It's very important if you're into the UAP community and wanting to know more about disclosure and why the government's holding on to what it's holding on to. So it's just an interesting article. So 2 more stories here to wrap up the day. Speaking of UFO files, the Pentagon's UFO files, by the way, include an encounter with a werewolf.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of werewolves.
A number of unexplained sightings and experiences have been revealed through interviews with former officials. For many years, the Pentagon, in connection with the Defense Intelligence Agency, ran a secretive program investigating the connection between UFOs or UAPs and paranormal phenomena. During interviews with military.com, retired DIA or intelligence officer James Lakatsky and retired CIA operations officer Jim, I believe it's Semivan, who both worked on the secret program, have lifted the lid on some of the strange cases that were investigated during the time. These investigations included that of the USS Nimitz UAP sightings, as well as that of Skinwalker Ranch, a property in Utah, notorious for being home to a plethora of strange phenomena. According to Lakatsky and Semivan, the 3 men who were sent to investigate the ranch were left terrified after they witnessed what they described as a black void on the property. Even more unnerving was the fact that they reported experiencing paranormal phenomena after returning to their homes, such as strange noises and sightings of dark figures at night. In a separate incident, the family of the investigator who had been looking into the USS Nimitz case reported witnessing a wolf-like creature who walked on 2 hind legs, staring in through the window of their home on 2 occasions. When asked about them, however, the Pentagon was unable to confirm or deny that any of these 3 investigations or encounters took place.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I've heard those before, especially the one with the dark figures and the wolf and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just, why not have it, if UFOs are interdimensional beings, why wouldn't a werewolf be an interdimensional being? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It just makes sense.
That does make sense. And then the last one is not as scary as you'd think, but scary to some people. I know you've seen the Batman. I've seen the Batman.
Yeah.
But I saw it without real life effects. Turns out that a cinema screening of the Cape Crusaders' latest outing was recently interrupted by a rather topical visitor, and it could be tropical in some climates. The unexpected interruption happened as a bat flew in earlier this month at the movie house and eatery by Sinopolis in Austin, Texas.
Well, that's because the bat's cousin was in the movie.
That's true. He was like, I know that guy.
Yeah.
I know him. He got me free tickets. Where moviegoers found themselves attempting to watch the Batman while a rather large bat fluttered and swooped around above their heads. Things got so out of...
vengeance.
I am vengeance. I'm trying to watch the movie. Would you just park your ass somewhere?
That's my cousin.
Robbie, we go back. Remember me? Things got so out of hand that the cinema staff ended up having to put the movie on pause while an animal control expert attempted unsuccessfully, by the way, to extricate the winged mammal from the premises.
What a horrible animal control. Be unsuccessful. Like, your only job is the animal control.
Right.
Control the animal.
Just catch the bat.
What he should have done is played Dark Knight in the parking lot on DVD. The bat would have flown out. Sat down and watched The Dark Knight.
What I think would be funny is if the animal control guy showed up as the Riddler.
The bat chased him.
And he couldn't quite catch the Batman. Audience members were offered a refund. However, most decided to stick with it and watch the movie, even with the on-screen superhero's real-life counterpart swooping around. There you go.
That 3-hour movie turned into a 4.5-hour movie because of that bat.
That's right. He's hanging around going, hey, guys, when are you going to unpause it? Let's go.
Who wants selfies? I'm the Batman.
I'll sign things after the movie. Not until.
Yep. You see that image on his chest? Yeah, that's me.
That's me. That's me right there.
Bob Kane was a good friend of mine.
He was, yeah. We used to hang out. We'd do lines of coke off the drawing board. It was great. Times were different back then.
Perfect.
That'll do it for this week. I want to thank everybody who, by the way, who's continued to listen to the program, who's been hanging in there. I don't want to make it sound like we're a chore or a burden or anything, but who's been continued supporter of Darkness Radio. We appreciate you. We appreciate you being here every week. We appreciate your emails, your comments on social media. We appreciate you, your words of encouragement. And adding us on social media. I've got a lot more ads lately on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, and it's good to see that the following is growing. So we appreciate all that. I know Bruiser's getting correspondence as well, which is good to see. I love hearing the stories I'm getting. I love responding. I love talking to people. All my socials have gone up too, which is great. Like, I love talking to like-minded people, especially about this kind of stuff. Yep, absolutely. So we want to encourage you to keep your correspondence going. We want to encourage you, please send in your Parashare to us. We want to read more of your emails on air. Tim@darknessradio.com. You can also call us on the Parashare line, 651-300-4977, 651-300-4977. And of course, you can see Beer City Bruiser in your town doing his thing. Bruiser, where are you going to be in the next couple of weeks?
Well, this weekend I'm actually off because I'm flying to close on a house. So I'm very excited about that. Mm-hmm. And then the 25th, I'm in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And the 26th, I'm doing a whole weekend in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Me and Brian Malonis are getting the band back together.
Nice.
And we're going to have some fun. And I'm very excited to see him. I haven't seen him since the last pay-per-view we were on. We've been talking, obviously, over the phone and whatnot, but to actually hang out with my good buddy and have a beer with him is very exciting, and I'm very excited for that. And hopefully people can come out. And if you're listening to the show, let me know when we're at these shows. You know, I'll sit and I'll talk to you paranormal, I'll talk aliens, I'll talk anything at these shows.
That is awesome. I did have one guy who I won't name his name. We ended up having a good conversation after it. Uh-huh. But he said to me, you know, and all the times I've been doing ring announcing, he said to me, he was in a huff until we started talking. He said, "Do you actually get up in front of this audience and the wrestling audiences and talk about Darkness Radio and aliens and all that other stuff?" I said, "I absolutely do."
Huh?
I said,
I had a conversation in Chippewa Falls last weekend with somebody.
Yeah,
who was a fan of the show, and they were telling me all their stories, and it was great.
I said, I get up in the ring, and when I introduce myself, I say, at the time, I say I'm when I said I'm the co-host and producer of Darkness Radio, and then I ask everybody, how many people have seen a ghost? And then, you know, people raise their hands. I said, how many people have had an experience with what they think might have been a cryptid or Sasquatch or something like that in the woods, or seen something they can't explain in the woods? Mm-hmm. And then some people might raise their hands. I said, how many people think whoever the big heel is in the territory is going to get anal probed by an alien tonight, which generally gets a big laugh. Yeah. And then I tell them about the show.
And that's perfect. That's a perfect way. Like, people don't understand. There is a huge crossover between wrestling fans and paranormal fans.
Yeah. So yes, this show gets traveled to when I do gigs as well. So
yeah. I'm always talking about it. I actually turned down a couple of the guys in the locker room that saw you post something with my name on it. They're like, is that true? I said, yeah. And they tuned in and had a blast.
That's awesome. Yeah. So we're going to keep growing this thing together, and it's been a fun show. And tomorrow we're going to explore a little bit with a man named Micah Dank. And this is going to be an interesting show, Bruiser. Sometimes we go right down the line with ghosties, and sometimes we go right down the line with cryptids, and sometimes we go right down the line with aliens. In this case, tomorrow, Micah Dank will be here and talk about all kinds of things. We're going to go everywhere from near-death experiences to the pyramids, to Atlantis, to Akashic Records, to Edgar Cayce, to Einstein, to a DMT experience.
He's just all over the place, isn't he?
He's kind of all over the place, but there's much, much more involved there. He's got a series called Into the Rabbit Hole, which is kind of along the lines of Dan Brown's Da Vinci Code. So we're also going to talk a little bit about examples of crystal technology and how it's connected to Atlantis CIA's mind control. That sounds confusing, I know. I threw out what sounded like gibberish. It's all going to make sense tomorrow. So we're going to talk about the CIA. We're going to talk about mind control. We're going to talk about crystal technology. We're going to talk about all kinds of things. Acoustic levitation is going to be in tomorrow's program.
That sounds exciting, actually. I'm curious about the acoustic levitation.
We've got 1,001 things to talk about tomorrow, Bruiser.
This guy, he knows it all, doesn't he?
He kind of knows it all. So we're gonna run the gamut tomorrow here on Darkness Radio. So that's coming up tomorrow here on the best in paranormal podcasting, Darkness Radio. For Beer City Bruiser, I'm Tim Dennis. Thank you so much for being a continued listener of our show. And again, if you want to continue to support us, it's real simple. You just go to Stitcher.com/premium. You can use the code DARKNESS and you can get your first month for free. You just click on that premium button, sign up for $5 a month. It gets you Darkness Radio ad-free. It gets you True Crime Tuesday ad-free. You can also hear Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals as part of True Crime Tuesday. It also allows you to get all of Stitcher Premium ad-free, hundreds of podcasts ad-free. And it continues to support the show. So we would ask you to do that. And also continue to support the advertisers of Darkness Radio. We ask you to do that as well. Have a good day. We'll see you tomorrow with Micah Dank right here on Darkness Radio.